brakes. Sparks.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, we just got a new 2022 GR86 sitting behind me here. We also have a 2001 Honda S2000, and then my pride and joy, my 2013 Scion FRS, hence why we bought the new GR86 because I'm in love with it so much. 2 weeks ago, we also just bought a 2022 TRD Pro Tacoma, which is a dream truck of ours. Today we are here, it is actually 1 week and 1 day since we had bought the GR86, and we have a track day tomorrow. The GR86 is going to be my dedicated track car. The S2000 is Tadashi's track car. Now we're both going to be racing them and whatnot so that we can be competitive against each other, but this will be my dedicated car. The biggest thing with the new GR86 is everybody's complaining is the brakes, just for track days. Like, the car is great everywhere else, but if you can do brakes, wheels, and tires, that makes a huge difference. We ended up doing the Hawk Performance brake pads, just something just to get us, because I do daily drive it. We've had the car a week and we have 800 miles on it already, so it gets driven a lot. So we don't want to go like crazy track dedicated yet. Eventually I'll do a full setup just for track, but for now we'll do these. Some new brake fluid, and while we're in there, we're gonna go ahead and replace it with some Goodridge stainless steel brake lines. All right, first things first, we are going to get this on jack stands on all four corners just so we make it easy, and take the wheels and tires off and start replacing things.
And now, since this is her car and her track car, she gets to do the dirty work. And I get to sit in here and hold the brake for her.
Until I can't handle something and then you have to come do it anyways. Okay, so for those of you that are familiar with the first generation, pretty much everything mechanically about this one is going to be pretty much identical. For anybody that is not familiar with the first gen, you will need a 19 mil socket for the lug nuts. If you have a locking lug nut, then for ours, it was in the trunk where you would find your jack and everything. So I would assume it'd be the same for anybody else. And then on the back here, you're gonna need a 14 mil. So because we are not doing the rotors and we're only upgrading the brake pads, those will be the only two that you will need to install this. Okay, so you don't want the caliper just to hang due to it putting a lot of stress on the brake lines here. So we used a bungee cord, but you can use zip tie or whatever you'd like.
Just brand new still.
Okay, so we have the brake pads in now. So we're gonna move on to the brake lines. Starting out, you're gonna need a 12 mil socket here, 12 mil socket there. And then up here, you're gonna need a 10 mil. Preferably use a flare nut wrench so you don't strip it out. There is some black grease on here. As you loosen it up, the brake fluid is going to start seeping out a little bit and it will eat away the black grease. So just make sure that you're wiping it consistently to keep it clean so that the threads are nice and clean when you put on the new brake line. Here you've got a retaining clip that is holding in the brake line. So you wanna make sure that before you take this off, you loosen up the 10 mil first. All right, so now once you have the 10 mil loose, as you can see, there's fluid dripping out. You can go ahead and remove the retainer clip here. All right, now that we have the retainer clip off, you can see that this is loose. So next step, we're gonna take this 12 mil off and we're just gonna crack this one loose. So now that we have this taken off and this one cracked loose, we can take the 10 mil off. But as you can see, it's getting really dirty. Reminder to keep that clean as you go. These are your stainless steel brake lines. They are different for the front and the rear. This one is for the front. It has a straight line. This one is for the rear. It has a 90-degree bend. All right, now since you've got that all loose, you can just pull that down and let that hang down. And then take this one, insert it back in, and then start threading this, but be careful not to cross thread it. Then you're gonna move on to the next part. You're gonna need a banjo bolt and 2 copper washers. So you'll put the washer on first, and then put the other washer on. That way you have washer on each side. So make sure that you, I still had an old washer on there, so just make sure that that's removed. You can just get rid of that. So once you have the banjo bolt tight to the brake caliper, you're going to push the line up so that you can put the retainer clip back on to fit back into the groove up top. Once you have the retaining clip in place, then you can tighten down the 10 mil. Okay, something to note, so the factory bolt is a 12 mil, and with the Goodridge brake lines here, it is a 11 mil. So now we're gonna mount the brake line back to the factory mounting location with the 12 mil. But something to note, just make sure that you have it in this orientation, washer on the bottom, sleeve on the top, so that it has its guard there when you secure it in place. All right, so now that we got that all done, it is time to bleed the brakes. So first things first, make sure that you remove the cap. Make sure that it's full before we start.
And then the handy dandy cameraman is gonna jump in down here. You gotta remove this little rubber cap here. All right, so I have an actual little brake bleeder kit that I'm just using a component of it, just so I can see the air and the fluid coming down, and then it has a spot to run into. If you don't have one of these, you can basically just crack this loose. As soon as the pressure releases, tighten it back up, have them pump the brakes and then hold it, and then do that again. It's a little bit harder to see when no more air is coming out, but that's an easy way of getting it done. This is just a little bit nicer just because you can see the air coming through. Once you're done with your bleeding process, top off your brake fluid. Once you're happy and you don't hear or see any more air coming out and you have a firm brake pedal, go ahead, spray everything down with brake clean just to make sure that any brake fluid that did get on any paint is washed away, because it will eat through paint. Make sure to do a good job cleaning up. Make sure everything is tight, no leaks, and then you can throw the wheels back on.
All right guys, so the rear is the exact same as the front. You can do the front, you can do the rear. So we're gonna hurry up and knock out these rear. It's already getting late, and of course we gotta leave at 5 a.m. in the morning for track day. So once we get the rear ones done, we're gonna take the car out, bed in the brakes, and then hopefully get a good night rest and have a good track day tomorrow.
Well, got it all done, and now we're gonna go bed in the brakes, do some hard acceleration to hard braking multiple times back to back to get the pads bedded into the rotors.
What am I doing?
All right, so just get up to about 50 miles an hour. And then hard on the brakes. And now start going again. Get back up to speed. Then hard on the brakes again. And now keep going. And we're just gonna do that like 8 more times. Hard on the brakes. See how much more they're stopping now? See how crazy those are?
Holy, it's giving me a head rush.
I can smell them now.
Yeah. Ooh, sparks.
Yep. on the back brakes. Sparks. Yep. All right. While they're still hot, just don't come to a complete stop and sit on the brakes, because you can warp rotors, crack rotors, because they're really hot. So now it's just like cool down. Do you see it, how big of a difference it made just after a couple?
Yeah.
How much harder it stops?
Yeah.
And these are just Hawk HP Plus pads. They're nothing fancy. And they make a huge difference on, especially a vehicle like this where it's just going to be a daily driver track car. And you don't need something super fancy, something that's going to destroy your wheels with brake dust. These do dust quite a bit, but nowhere near as bad as some other higher end track pads. Yep, and that is it. So tomorrow we are going to be doing standing start, or road course basically, and see how the GR86 compares to the original, the first gen, and also see if we can beat the times that we set in an S2000. Stock power, but the S2000 is set up more for autocross, whereas this car is stock with upgraded pads and lines. So we'll see.